What's going on? Welcome back to another episode Off the Schneid. Told you we are going to go live Wednesday. Play golf yesterday. Putt Daddy, if you're around, I told you I'd tell you my score. I shot an 84, pretty reasonable. Actually, pretty happy. It's my best score so far of the year. But hoping to break 80 a few more times this year. Only did it once last year. Hoping to break it a few more times. Get that handicap down to single digits. So it's a work in progress. But we're live. We're going to be doing a Dalmatian draft, like the title shows. If we get 10 likes on the episode, as you see on the ticker, 10 likes, we'll do a Best Ball Mania draft after the Dalmatian. So I'm going to jump right into it. Let's jump over to the Underdog and let's start talking about some strategy with this tournament. So definitely different than anything else going on right now. Except for the Mastiff. The Mastiff is nice. That's just a little too hefty on my bankroll personally. So I won't be entering the Mastiff unless something happens between now and the start of the season. But $1,000 entry. The Dalmatian 101. So obviously 101 Dalmatians. Obviously play on words there. Haha. Well done, Underdog. But $30K for first. 3 max entry. You can enter the Mastiff 7 times, I believe. But obviously, if I did do it, it would only be a 1 entry. I just can't. It's just not going to happen this year. Buying a house, whatever. But the structure on the Mastiff is very juicy. I would like if the Dalmatian was, mirrored this. Obviously, with a larger final. There's an 8C final here in the Mastiff, and then the Dalmatian that we'll be doing in a few minutes here. Actually, maybe we should jump in because it might take a bit to fill. So let's jump in and then we'll talk about it. If you're in the chat, you want to draft, go ahead, jump in. So we're waiting on 8, but let's go back to so we're in the draft. We're in the Dalmatian. If you want to draft in the chat, jump in, go ahead. Looking at the structure, 2 of 12, 1 of 5, 1 of 8 for 23-seat final. I really like that structure. Obviously, the 4 of 12 is fantastic. 1 in 3 teams essentially are going to advance, and then you're making money. So if you advance, you make the money, you make $101, you get your money back. And then that's about it. You make the second round, you get through on 1 of 5. Looks to me, maybe my math's wrong here, but $150. So really, you just want to make the final. You make the 23-seat final. You get $1,000 in your pocket plus $700 essentially. You're making money. Really, obviously, you're trying to finish top 3. Top 4 really gets $10K. If you get top 4, you're winning at least $10,000, which is pretty nice for a 2,760 entries. And again, the format is pretty juicy. 3 max, I like that. I love these 3 max single entries, 20 max even, stuff like that. I like those kinds of contests. I didn't get any of the Schnauzer personally. So we got 5, waiting for 7 in the Dalmatian that we're in. But I didn't get any of the Schnauzer, and I just knew it would fill too fast. And I wasn't about to try to rush or do slows or anything like that. So it is what it is. No Schnauzers for me. The Poodle filled too fast, to be honest with you. For me, I have 5 slows going to finish to get my max entry in the Poodle. So it is what it is. But so as far as the strategy that I'm trying to do, sip time first. Little steam whistle is what I got here. Canada's premium Pilsner is what they say. Maybe Canada's, I suppose. My wife to be is Czech, so Pilsner comes from Czechoslovakia, Czech Republic now. Either way, so it's tough to kind of beat that, but don't mind a little steam whistle. It's pretty clean. Don't mind it. Either way, strategy on this tournament, a little bit different. Realistically, all I care about, all I want to do is advance. If I see, there's going to be probably at least 1 or 2, minimum 1 or 2 teams in every 12-team pod, draft pod, whatever, that are going to be dead, basically dead on arrival, just DOA as soon as the draft is over, right? So I'm going to try to identify what those guys are doing. If I can find which teams are going to be dead, whether they're drafting like 3 elite tight end or quarterbacks, or that actually probably would be advanced, but more call it, I don't know, zero wide receiver or something crazy like that. If someone's not drafting wide receivers, actually, Pat on the Fantasy Dog Pound did one, I think yesterday, and someone had 1 wide receiver through the first like 7 rounds, something like that. So that team is pretty much dead. Like, you're just not going to be able to, make it back at wide receiver, which is obviously a premium position, which obviously blends in with the flex spot. So you're not going to be able to catch up. That team's pretty much dead unless something crazy happens. So plan around them and where they are in the draft. Identify who they are, figure out where they are in the draft, and then, react accordingly. If they're right beside you, fantastic, then you could take advantage of that. But either way, you got to kind of adjust to what other people are doing in the draft. Then, like I said, all I want to do is advance. So let me just cough here quickly. Just had a bite to eat, but hence why we were delayed tonight. But 4 of 12, that's all I care about. I just want to give myself a shot. I'll take my chances with 1 of 5. And if I'm looking to, as far as correlation, like, how I feel about BBM, that's all I'm doing. In Best Ball Mania, that's all I care about is week 17 and playoff weeks as well. But week 17 is my number one focus. That's what I'm 100% honing in on. It is what it is. I'm selling out. For this tournament, I really don't care about correlation at all, to be honest with you. So if I can get some falling value, I'm going to jump on it. That's for sure, almost regardless of who it is. We'll see. I mean, if it's like Nick Chubb or someone I don't like drafting, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I'm going to take falling value when I can. You can't fall behind pretty much anywhere, realistically, again, especially at wide receiver. So you got to keep an eye. It's just balanced. Build a balanced team. Make sure you get some high level at every position. It could be where it's not a bad start in this specific tournament to go, let's call it running back, wide receiver, tight end, quarterback, and just build it balanced like that. Or if anything, you're pushing tight end, but quarterback is going to be pretty essential. Josh Allen's going to be quite valuable in this structure, in my opinion. So we'll see where he falls to. If he's sitting there, if you're in like the 39, early 40s and Josh Allen's there, absolutely, I'm going to be smashing that little bit of a value dip, because to me, the ADPs won't shift in this tournament. They won't shift at all from all the other tournaments, right? So people that are ADP drafters, potentially Josh Allen can fall because he is falling in those other tournaments. So for me, he should be bumped up your rankings in this structure because all you care about is advancing. And if you have the number one scoring quarterback, which Josh Allen has been the last 2 or maybe 3 seasons, 2 for sure, right? The number one scoring quarterback, and you can kind of lock that in, which I think we're relatively safe to lock in Josh Allen as a top 3 quarterback, obviously barring injury, but we don't think like that, right? You can't just think he's going to get hurt, right? With a guy like Josh Allen. So we're banking on him being a top 3 quarterback. So I would bump him up my rankings in this structure, and I will be. So we'll see what happens there. Again, correlation doesn't really matter. Week 17 especially doesn't particularly matter. You're not going to need the nuts, in what is it, 23 again, 23 person. Yeah. You're not going to need the nuts, right? You're just going to need a good score, a good quality score. 160s might win this whole thing, right? So correlation doesn't matter. You don't need that bring back. You don't need that double stack, things like that. You just need high scoring players, high floor players can potentially get you by. Depends on what you're doing with rookies and stuff like that. Putt Daddy, what's up, man? Mr. Golf Score today. Watching my 10-hour US Open recording with your draft. Appreciate you coming out, man, as always. US Open was treacherous today, but I scored 85. I shot 84. 84 I shot. Which was reasonable. Could have been a lot better. Could have been a lot worse. That's for sure. It's going to be the course that will be my home course in about a month here. I'm moving to a house we just bought, and that will be my home course. So I'm pretty excited about that. But 84, decent. We skipped a full hole, a par 3, to get ahead of a group so we could finish before the lights went out. And so I gave myself a bogey on that hole. It was a 155-yard par 3. Maybe I would have parred it. Maybe I would have birdied. You never know. But I didn't feel good about giving myself a par, especially not birdie, obviously. So I gave myself a bogey and finished with an 84. Still working on the handicap. Want to get it to single digits by the end of this year. That's my goal. But stay tuned on that. Back to this. Where do I want to be? We're waiting on 3 now. We were down to waiting on 1, lost 2, so that's cool. Waiting on 3 for this draft. But where I would want to be is no questions asked. I always like being top 8 in all of these drafts, in BBM and whatever. I like being top 8 for sure, because these top 8 picks are pretty much set in stone. I don't see these top 8 picks shifting. I do think that AJ Brown, I've been saying it for months now, I think AJ Brown gets ahead of Puka Nacua, and it's almost there. He's, basically there right now, and it's only a matter of time before AJ Brown moves up. I don't see him moving ahead of Breece Hall, maybe, especially if there's any more of this like lingering, injury issue, if it spills into training camp. Right now, I don't give a shit about these little nicked up injuries. It's 2 days. Mandatory minicamp is 2 days of practice. It really doesn't matter, and no one cares. Like, even this whole Aaron Rodgers stuff getting blown out of proportion. Yes, he should be there. But he was at OTAs when he didn't need to be. He didn't need to be there being a 20-year vet, whatever. But he was there at OTAs, not there at minicamp. Yes, he should have been there. I agree with that. But if he had a prior engagement and they knew about it, they're happy with it, they're fine. And sometimes it's not the worst idea to get your backups in there rolling with the ones anyways. Get Tyrod Taylor some reps. A lot of times teams just don't do that, right? We're talking about Drake May with the Patriots not getting any run with the ones, or not enough run with the ones right now, because Jacoby Brissett is the starter right now. Even in Minnesota, Sam Darnold is the starter as it sits right now. So they're getting a lot of the reps with the ones. So with Aaron Rodgers not being at mandatory minicamp, Tyrod Taylor is getting some run with the ones that would happen if there's an injury to Aaron Rodgers, another one. That's another thing I'm not really concerned about at all. People are just labeling Aaron Rodgers as injury prone now because he tore his Achilles. It's not like that's a reoccurring thing, right? I mean, it's not like Aaron Rodgers has always been nicked up. He's won 3 friggin' MVPs. That's another story for another day. But it's, I want to be top 8 is what I was getting at before I went on that little soapbox rant about nonsense. I want to be a top 8 pick, one of these top 8 guys. It doesn't particularly matter to me if it's wide receiver or running back first. Pre-draft best ball in the big board, I was Breece Hall over Bijan Robinson. I think I ended very, very close as far as my exposure to the two players. But now I have Bijan over Breeze. And it's just because of the coach speak, I guess. Realistically, the coach speak index is a great resource. But Bijan's really getting some steam there. Not that there's any, fans being put on the flames of Breece Hall or anything, but Bijan's really getting hyped up a little bit. Plus, another weird thing about Bijan is if you watch tape in college, if you watch some of the clips from last season, the dude takes some crazy hits and some weird hits. Like in college, he just got straight scorpioned and walked it off. Like it looked like he broke his goddamn back and he just got up and was in the next friggin' play. It's crazy. His body is like putty or something. So that honestly, I kind of like that. I kind of think like, man, this guy's borderline indestructible. He can just take hits like that, get straight up scorpion bent and kind of just shake it off. So that's something I like about Bijan Robinson, if I'm being honest. Just seeing the hits that he's taken and seeing the different ways that he's kind of bent with it, that human beings aren't meant to bend, and he just walks it off. So I kind of like that. Not that that's like, there's certainly no data behind that, obviously, right? That's just a visual, use my eyeballs kind of take. But there you go. So I don't really care who it is. Realistically, like, to be honest with you, there's going to be people out there that tell you there's the rankings, right? Oh, you're taking Jamar Chase over Justin Jefferson. Oh, you can't take Tyreek over Justin Jefferson, whatever. Like, these guys are all just there, right? They're all, you know what you're expecting from them, and you're expecting wide receiver one, top 12, 100% wide receiver 1 to 12 production. That's what you're expecting, and nothing else will do, really. So that's all you got to get from them. That's all you're asking. Realistically, you're not asking any of these wide receivers. You shouldn't be, anyways. You shouldn't be asking them to be wide receiver 1 overall. If you get that, and that's what happens, if CeeDee Lamb's a wide receiver 1, if Amon-Ra's wide receiver 1, whatever it is, then great. You kind of backed into it. That's lovely. But you can't just draft Justin Jefferson and say, oh, he's the best wide receiver in the world. I'm going to draft, 30% Justin Jefferson because he's going to be wide receiver 1. Probably not going to happen. So again, it depends on draft position, where you end up, and who's there, who falls, if anyone falls, right? There's all kinds of things. Ended up in the 2-hole. That's nice. I actually really like that. I have barely ever get top 3. UGA Dog, I drafted him the other night. Haven't really seen that name too many times. That's about all I know. But we got goat horns here, headband, a lot of badges, 1, 2, 3 badgeless. So a lot of, I guess, experienced drafters who, whether they draft in, NFL best ball or not. That's another thing about the badges. People think because you have a badge, you might know more, whatever. Badges don't mean shit, if I'm being honest, especially because it could be from a completely different sport. They could just draft NBA a ton, NHL, Major League Baseball. They could draft these other sports and get their badge and then come into an NFL room and not know what they're doing. So badges don't mean a damn thing. But there you go. There's my little rant about badges. So I'll take CMC or Lamb, whoever he doesn't take, and he takes Tyreek Hill. That kind of puts me in a pickle. I don't know who I want. Realistically, in my own personal rankings, I had CeeDee Lamb over Christian McCaffrey, and I'm going to stick to my guns on that. I'm going to stick to my guns, and I'm going to take CeeDee Lamb. Or am I? No, I'm going to take Christian McCaffrey. Let's chicken out and just take CMC. Realistically, he has a similar floor. I guess I'm doing 3 of these. Obviously, I'm going to max enter this tournament. So in theory, I'm more likely to get CeeDee Lamb than I am to get CMC outside of being the 1. Not sure. That's a great advancement piece, Tyreek Hill, I suppose, but that's interesting. That's a hot take, Tyreek Hill at the 1-1 in a Dalmatian, higher stakes kind of a draft. That's an interesting take. But good on you, I guess. But either way, CeeDee Lamb goes 3rd. So in theory, I could be 1, 2, 3 in theory, at least 1st or 2nd and get Lamb. And I guess in theory, I could be 1st or 2nd to get CMC. But either way, every pick, every selection that you make in this feels like, the most important selection that you could possibly make. It is a little bit higher stakes. It's not, breaking the bank or anything, but $100 draft, it's nothing to turn your nose up to or anything like that. There's definitely some cheddar involved. So, but either way, like if you're in the top 3 for sure, top 8, again, top 8 for me, I'd even maybe say top 7 and take Breece Hall out of that right this second. When we're drafting right now in June, you could maybe take Breece Hall out of that conversation and just say top 7 is where I want to be in these Dalmatians, in these $100 drafts, where it means a little bit more to get that first round kind of stud, right? Mind you, you could build some good rosters at the back end. I don't know if there's such a necessity to get unique at all. Like I was saying, I think last stream when I was talking about being at 12, 13, being on the turn there, where I would go Chris Olave and Devontae Adams to get that week 17 correlation. Something like that is absolutely unadvisable in this tournament. Personally, I think ADP is a little more important, depending on position. So like I said, we'll see what happens to quarterbacks. Unless Josh Allen falls to 47, I'm not going to get him because I won't be taking him at 26. But not that that's a bad pick. That's actually not a bad pick at all at 26. And, it's on the table that I could do that, but I just don't see myself making that click with all the wide receivers here, especially when I took Christian McCaffrey. If I took CeeDee Lamb, it would be more likely for me in my head to take Josh Allen at the 2-3 turn than if I took CeeDee Lamb or CMC. I just can't pass up these wide receivers in this range realistically. I don't really see how anybody could. So more or less, you got to just take who you think is the best player at this point. And correlation really doesn't mean anything. I'm not too worried about correlation here at all. So if Devontae Adams is there, I'll take him. Again, I'm looking for falling value, any kind of falling value. Jalen Waddle, I don't mind. Neighbors, I'm not so sure that I would want right here. Devontae Smith is a solid click. Probably going to go Jalen Waddle right here and then see what kind of comes back around to me. And it's probably going to be Cooper Kupp is where I'll go. I don't know if I love stacking up bye weeks like that. Man, do I just take Neighbors? I really do like his playoff schedule. Again, not that it means anything. But man, just who's going in this range? DK's there. Let's stick to our guns. If Cooper Kupp gets back to where he could and should be, then we're in business. And to be honest, I didn't care about this. I didn't plan this, but it did just work out where I do correlate in the early rounds of the playoffs here. So that could make a difference for me getting to that final. If I was going to try to correlate at any point in these drafts, it would be week 15 and then week 16. You know what I mean? Just because I want to get to the final. Hopefully I have high floor and high ceiling guys, which I think I do. I mean, Jalen Waddle, you could argue. I mean, you could certainly argue with Cooper Kupp as well, but Christian McCaffrey is the highest ceiling possible running back. So, if it comes down to it, I could kind of afford, a lower ceiling for my two wide receivers I took, but I think Cooper Kupp is gonna have a bit of a bounce back, and remind people who he is. He still can get the job done as long as he's healthy, which he looks like he should be. He should be super motivated. Yeah, we'll see, I guess. But I do like Cooper Kupp, and I think he's moving up, and we're gonna see him in the 20s, not only in no time, but maybe in this 26 range where I just took him. I could really see him getting, over guys like DJ Moore. Neighbors, yeah, I think he probably should, maybe around that range. Either way, in the high to mid 20s is where I think Cooper Kupp will settle, especially as more kind of casual drafters come in, because he's a name that people are going to know and remember. Oh man, he was the best wide receiver in the game a couple of years ago. Yeah, he's good. I'll click him. So either way, like naturally I could see him rising. But what I'm saying is it might be for good reason, right? And I think it is for good reason. So there we go. But we'll see who falls here. Again, I'm going to try to keep looking for some falling value, and I'm not going to let myself fall behind anywhere. And realistically, the two places that you risk falling behind on, wide receiver, no question, obviously, and then running back, but I'm ahead of the game already with CMC. So I guess that's another pro for taking CMC, first overall, second overall, wherever, if you have the option between Christian McCaffrey and CeeDee Lamb, that's another pro to throw on the CMC side, where you draft Christian McCaffrey, and that allows you to probably A, stop at 5 running backs, and B, it's not as much of a, necessity where you're going to feel like you're falling behind. So yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons for everybody, basically. Wow, we got Lamar Jackson over Josh Allen. I mean, you're stacking it up. I just don't think that's necessary. Like, I really, really don't think that was a necessary move. Here we've got the, Detroit, San Francisco stack. That's fine, because those are the two, on paper, high scoring offenses, high scoring teams in the NFL. Obviously, we're in June. We gotta play the games, and there's months to go. Injuries can happen, blah, blah, blah. But if you look at that tweet I put out the other day, projected points for, which was based off of over-unders that are out there to bet on right now. Those are the two top scoring teams. I think they're the two top, maybe two of the top 3, scoring teams in the NFL. So not a bad plan, but you're going with Garrett Wilson, Jonathan Taylor, and then stacking up Baltimore. I'm not so sure I can get behind that in this tournament, in this structure. In a BBM, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Perfectly fine with that. But let's see who's going to fall to us. Trey McBride is actually a quality click here, in my opinion. Maybe I can push him. Got Miami and Philly. Interesting. So Trey McBride, again, he correlates. Not that matters. There goes Trey McBride. That's completely fine. I think I'm going to have to go with my guy that I just absolutely believe in, and he's got to get into the 40s for me. He's got to get ahead of Amari Cooper. That's for damn sure, is my guy Terry McLaurin. Yeah, that's pretty easy click for me. If you guys watch the show, I love me some Scary Terry. He's my number 1 owned wide receiver in post-draft best ball, so in Best Ball Mania. Big Terry McLaurin believer this year. I will be going Dalton Kincaid if he's there. And there he goes. That's fine. That makes sense. Quality pick. So we're falling behind, if you can say that, at tight end, but realistically, it's the easiest spot to catch up. I think it's going to be Hollywood Brown. Yeah, it's going to have to be. So again, this is me kind of catching up. Like, if you're going to say that Jalen Waddle and Cooper Kupp were not the correct clicks there, I wouldn't fault you for saying that about this draft. I wouldn't fault you for saying that. You could say Devontae Smith. You could say Malik Neighbors should have been the guy. DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, whatever. You could say any of those guys should have been the clicks for me, which I would be fine with you saying, to be honest with you. But then I go ahead and back it up with Terry McLaurin and Hollywood Brown. So now I still have that super high-end running back, and then I stacked up a bunch of wide receivers that I know can get the job done. Plus, with everything that Patrick Mahomes is saying about Hollywood Brown right now, I like that a lot, especially, again, with, Rashee Rice most likely getting suspended at some point this season. We'll see how long this legal procedure takes. And that has to kind of get finalized before we see what happens with Hollywood Brown. But chances are he gets some sort of slap on the wrist. And then that gives Hollywood Brown, even more time in games to develop even more of a rapport with Patrick Mahomes, even though Mahomes is saying, he's kind of the guy. So I like that click. And again, now I'm ahead of the game at wide receivers. So what I was saying beforehand, has anyone gotten out of line? Does anybody not make sense? Is anybody falling behind? The only guy that's falling behind is UGA Dog right here at wide receiver. Now he's kind of, he could double tap and catch up a little bit, and he's going to have to. You should. I don't know if you're in the chat. I doubt it, but he should be going double wide receiver here. No questions asked. might not be the worst idea to go with both Chicago wide receivers here. Actually, no, sorry, this is not a BBM. I got to keep reminding myself, but you got to catch up is the way I'm looking at it. That's all I can kind of see here. So he does go Keenan Allen. Maybe he does bring it back with Rome Odunze because he clearly is stacking for week 17 with these three, his first 3 picks. So yeah, and he's going to go with some Buffalo Bill wide receivers. He's going to have to with Josh Allen. Makes sense, but we'll see. We'll see. So if Stroud falls to me, I would take him naked in this contest right here. If it's falling value, I'm going to take it. If he's there at 71, I'll be definitely drafting CJ Stroud, which, to be honest, that's probably more in line with where he should be going in this contest. Not in BBM, not in anything else, but in this contest, he should be falling a little bit, in my opinion. So this is actually perfectly fine. Unless, again, the Houston Texan drafter, Diggs, Tank Dell. Who do we got? Tank Dell here. Where's the Diggs drafter? Right here. Where is the Nico drafter? Right there, but he's got Anthony Richardson already. So could see him going right here with Tank Dell, and that would be fine. Could see him going right here with Diggs. That would be fine. So I highly doubt he gets to me. Wow. And then he just reaches on Keon Coleman. Don't think I can get behind that. Oh, it's not even that much of a reach. Wow. Keon Coleman is too high. He is going too high, in my opinion. So I guess that's not much of a reach, really. But he does double tap wide receiver. You had to do it. That's all you could really do to try to catch up. Fantasy Football Garage, good morning. Good morning. What's happening? How are you? Little sip time. But he did what he had to do to catch up. I get it. So what are we going to do? Whoops. What's everyone else doing around me? No one's taking a quarterback within, 4 picks of me. 2 tight ends. That's kind of just good to know. George Kittle goes. I could go with Kyle Pitts. He correlates as well, which is cool. There he goes. Never mind. Give me 1 sec there, Candyman. I'll tell you about my round in a second after these picks I make here. It's weird that Alvin Kamara is skipping minicamp right now, trying to send a message about a contract. You're borderline overpaid as it sits, man. You should just be all right with that and show up and go to work, do what you got to do. If Stroud's there, I'm taking him. I don't care if he's naked. I'll take CJ Stroud. Absolutely. Absolutely. If not, nuke. Little shoulder injury for Jackson. Not a big deal. So I'm getting Nuke Hopkins or CJ Stroud. Maybe both would be absolutely wonderful. How do you... I mean, this is where Stroud should be going. He does correlate with me a little bit. I got the Miami and KC stacks, and it's not like you need full wraps or anything like that. Yeah, I'm going to take Stroud. I'm just going to take Stroud because the one drafter could take him with the Miami. So I'm going to take that falling value. That's 13 picks, a full round past ADP. Yeah, I'll take it. He's probably going to take Nuke Hopkins on me, which is fine, considering what I got there. And then what do I do? And then I could go with David Montgomery, just that high floor, and I have hardly any shares of him, not particularly by design, just, oh, wow, Nuke Hopkins is there. No question, easy click. I love this team. I am really happy with the way this team is shaping up here. No correlation, and I don't care. That's not what matters in this tournament. We'll get to in a second, but Putt Daddy right there with you. I'm about to catch up on U.S. Open. Yeah, it's treacherous out there today. a lot of high scores. I'm not sure where the cut line ended up, the kind of like top 70. I think it was at +3. I thought it would be higher. I thought the cut would be probably end at like 5 over, and maybe it still will. We'll see if it firms up tomorrow and gets even tougher. But it's a treacherous course, that one. How'd my round go? I shot 84. So pretty good. Pretty good. Could have been better. Could have been a hell of a lot worse. That's for sure. So played pretty well. Pretty happy with it. Best round of the year so far. Still trying to work on that handicap. I want to get it to single digits this year. That's my goal. At least 9.9 is all I care about. I just want to get it to single digits. Tough road, though. I mean, it's tough to take off strokes when I'm at 12.5 right now. So it's tough to take off those strokes. It's not like going from 20 to 15 that you can do pretty easily if you play a lot, but trying to chip away these last few strokes is actually, it's pretty tough. So we'll see, but it was a good round. Yeah, man, super fast greens. Plus they're all this kind of mound turtleback type of a situation. So if you're off a little bit, you're rolling off into the rough. I saw countless guys go right into the bunker today. False fronts. It's a treacherous track out there, but hit that like button if you're in the chat. Appreciate you guys. Putt Daddy, you're always showing out. Love you. Thanks for coming out. Fantasy Football Garage, go check out his stream as well. It's always quality content over there. But hit that like button. You see the ticker going there. We do 10 likes. I'll do an extra Best Ball Mania draft after this Dalmatian's over. So hit that like button. Helps me out a ton. Notification bells worth doing as well, just because I go live sometimes a little bit sporadically. And if you want to come in, draft with me, that sort of thing, it's best to probably hit that notification bell there. So I'm only seeing 3 likes right now. We got 9 people watching. If you're watching on Twitter, go sign in. Oh, I'm at 5 likes. Appreciate it, guys. We get to 10, we'll do another draft. But back to this. Where are we at? I'm loving the way this is shaking out here. I actually have a fair amount of correlation. Even just with my quarterback, which I like. I could still bring it back, hopefully with Dalton Schultz later, which is obviously in my plans. And then get some little bit of just get a pass catcher with CJ Stroud, right? Where are we at? I definitely don't want to go. I mean, this range, I have my 5 wide receivers. I'm ahead of the game there. I still consider myself in a good spot with running back with Christian McCaffrey. I could go David Njoku. That's actually a quality pick that I actually will probably click. Makes a little bit too much sense to not just click David Njoku here, but I got to go with the running back as well. I got to bring up my running back room a little bit. And I have a couple options. Could go with Jaden Daniels as well. That's not bad. I might even do that if I consider myself in a good spot with Christian McCaffrey, which I do. I could. Okay, there he goes. That sucks. I would have clicked Jaden Daniels there for a reason I'll talk about in a second here. But I'm going to have to go Najee, I think. Almost again a full round, 10 picks of ADP value. I'll take it. I'll scoop it up. Should have a high floor. Already does the last 2 seasons. And then Arthur Smith comes in. He's going to run the rock. So I like that. I mean, 2 bye week 9s, not the end of the world. But I especially if I stop at 5, which I probably will, 5 running backs, then I won't bring in another week 9 bye week running back, obviously. I got to stop at by week 6 for my wide receivers. Can't add any more of those. You got to pay attention to that stuff a little more when advancing is really your only concern. So David Njoku here. Get started on my tight end room. I like that. So the reason I would have brought in Jaden Daniels, obviously I have Terry McLaurin. That's the first off right there. But CJ Stroud's the other reason why I would have liked to have brought in Jaden Daniels there. Why? Because Jaden Daniels could put up a score to, enter my lineup over CJ Stroud. They both have a quality week. With Jaden Daniels having that rushing upside, he could more easily a lot of times throw up a 20 plus 25, 30 point week than CJ Stroud. Let's say CJ Stroud goes out there and throws for, 280, 290 and 2 touchdowns, quality week. That's what, 20 points roughly, something like that. Jaden Daniels goes out, throws 2 touchdowns and an interception, but runs in a touchdown. He enters my lineup, right? So they could play off each other well, I think. For regular season advancing, I think that those 2 quarterbacks could play off each other really well and, get me to hopefully advance. So that was actually shout out to Davis Peng, who's back in the best ball streets, working for Underdog right now a little bit. He was on the Fantasy Dog Pound the other day talking about that. That's exactly what he said. So shout out to Davis Pang on that one. But that was a great point. I actually really, really like that. And I'm going to look to probably do that a little bit. It just so happens that here I am, and I almost had, Jane Daniels, where I probably would have got him if Kyler Murray didn't get selected right here. But yeah. So let's take a look through again. Is anybody falling behind right here? Bijan Olave. So this is fairly fragile at wide receiver here. Chris Olave, DJ Moore, and T. Higgins, and that's it right now in your wide receiver room. To me, that's a little too fragile. Obviously, you back it up with Joe Burrow and Caleb Williams, and Joe Burrow is a little falling value. I get that. But then double tight end right here as well. I think that's going to be tough for this team to advance personally. But we'll see. We will see. Would I have gone 3 QB with 2 bye week 14 and not worry about the bye week? 100% I would have brought in 3. Yeah, absolutely. I would have brought in 3. I would have felt like I'm okay at wide receiver to stop at probably 7, 2 tight ends, stop at 7 wide receivers, hope it maybe even or maybe 5 running backs, right? And bring in a third quarterback for sure. You kind of have to. You can't really just sell out, and if you do, it's going to be at tight end. That's the only place really that you could afford to completely sell out a week. You can't afford to sell out 25, let's call it 20 to 30 potential points at the quarterback position. It could be that thin, especially when 4 teams are advancing. It could really be that thin. So no questions asked, I would have drafted a third quarterback. And I might have even went to look at the schedule and see who had kind of a weak opponent in week 14 just to try to be the tiebreaker on that. But there you go. So probably going to be looking, could go with the Joe Burrow matching contract with Trevor Lawrence, but I probably will not. Could go Tua, obviously, is there as well, and that would really piss off the one hole that is obviously looking Miami. I might just let him make my decision for me. I am falling behind at quarterback here, and I don't like that feeling. I might go 3 quarterbacks regardless. I'm going to take Dalton Schultz here and just guarantee I get my guy and let the one hole kind of make my decision for me. And I think I'm going to have to be 3 quarterbacks regardless, which means I might go running back here instead of quarterback. Takes Spears, takes Tua, of course. That's fine. I'll let you have them. Won't bother me in the playoffs unless we're both there in the finals. Don't want Jerome Ford. Don't want Jahan Dotson. I'm going to take Trevor Lawrence. Look at my exposure. I believe in him. He does pair up with DeAndre Hopkins in week 17. Not that particularly matters. I could stop at 2 here. We will see. I'm done at tight end. I'm happy with that. David Njoku and Dalton Schultz, no bye week overlap. That's perfectly fine. I'm happy with those two. I'm happy with the floor that both of those tight ends will give me week in and week out. I think I'm hopefully guaranteed 7 to 10 points per week with upwards of 20-point weeks from my tight end spot. So I'm okay with that. I'm done at tight end. Happy to be done at tight end. I'm happy with where I'm at in the wide receiver room and in running back room. I'm a little concerned about my quarterbacks, but I could be done here. I really could, and we'll see. We'll see how the rest of this draft kind of shakes out. But it's a little more fragile than I would love. Basically, I'm banking on CJ taking another step forward, which of course is possible. The offensive line's in a better position. Stephon Diggs comes in. Tank Dell is back in his second season. Nico's, the guy. $8 million wide receiver now. So, Dalton Schultz, obviously, who I have on this team now. I guess maybe I kind of have to just lean into that and, draft as if I'm correct. If this were a BBM, I'd be done. If this were a Best Ball Mania, I'd be done drafting quarterbacks. So do I not just keep that same mentality, especially when I got Stroud a full round past ADP, full round plus past his ADP. So 13 picks past ADP of 58, which means he's going here. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this shakes out. I feel like I kind of have to lean into that narrative that CJ takes a step forward, given where I got him. If I had taken him at an ADP, I would probably feel worse about it because I would have sacrificed in this scenario, I guess, Hollywood Brown more or less, right? Or a comparable player, right? I got a free player a round ahead of where I got CJ Stroud. If you follow my kind of the math here, not that it exactly makes sense, but that's the way I'm looking at it. And I think I have to just lean in on it and be okay. And I have to catch up at, not necessarily catch up, but I have to fill out my running back and wide receiver rooms. That's how I'm seeing it right now. We'll see. We'll see how this shakes out. But realistically, who am I taking? Deshaun Watson? Why? Aaron Rodgers? Why? Baker? Will Levis? What am I getting that I don't already have in my room, right? If there was maybe you could say Will Levis has some rushing upside. Drake may, but by week 14, I'm not overlapping bye weeks if I'm taking 3 with what I have in my room already. It just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, well, we're going to have to see on this. And maybe Gabe Davis falls to me. That'd be really cool. That'd be really cool. I don't think he does, but people might shy away from him in this structure. So maybe he's there. I'm not taking quarterback here, so I can lean in on these two positions right now. Jalen Polk's having a good kind of mini camp, had good OTA. Gabe Davis goes. That's not a big problem. Jalen Polk's looking good. I don't have a lot of Xavier Legette, and I don't think in this structure that's the way I want to go about it. I do want a wide receiver. I'm going to take Ty Chandler because I just believe in him too much, and I'm concerned about Aaron Jones regardless of anything. So I'm going to take Ty Chandler. Considering my exposure in every other tournament to some of these players, I want to take them here too. That might not make a lot of sense, but if I'm really leaning in on these guys, then I have to draft like I'm right, and I have to believe in them. Could go Jalen Polk here. Basically, it's between Jalen Polk or Rashad Bateman, oddly. And the only reason Bateman is because I'm correlating week 17. Again, not that particularly matters, but he's not really an advancement piece. He's a win the fucking tournament piece, right? So, but I might be able to push him. But I think where's the Lamar drafter right there? I mean, I don't take Bateman if I'm him. So let's try Polk. So there we go. There's a bit of a mix of both bags that I was just kind of mentioning. Players that I really believe in, like Trevor Lawrence, I have a lot of exposure to. Ty Chandler, I have a ton of exposure to. Terry McLaurin, I have a ton of exposure to. Njoku and Schultz, I have a lot of exposure to. Jalen Polk, I do not. Hollywood Brown, not a crazy amount. Cooper Kupp, not a crazy amount. Same with Najee Harris, right? So I'm kind of getting a bit of a mix of both in this. I would like some more youth, some more first and second year players a little bit. I have one rookie and then second year quarterback, and that's it realistically. Not that I have a bunch of old balls kicking around, but I do want a little bit more youth, and I will take Bateman if he makes it back to me. If he falls 6 picks past ADP, you bet your ass I'll click Rashad Bateman. But I'm going to be leaning towards running back. And unless I get a falling quarterback that makes sense for my build, I'm just going to lean into what I was just talking about, and I'm going to take 2 quarterbacks, and I'm going to stick to CJ Stroud and T-Law and just lean in on that I'm right enough, and I got the value on Stroud, so I'm going to have to stop, and I'm going to be good. That's kind of just how she goes. So if you're in the chat, haven't hit the like button, please do. That'd be nice. We'll do one more draft, little best ball mania. If we get to 10 likes is all it'll cost. Free for you means a lot to me. What are we at for likes? Still at 5? I see 4. So what's going on here? Losing likes all of a sudden? Did someone change it to a dislike? That's not very nice. Back to 5. Let's see what we can do. 5 more likes, we'll do another draft. If you want to draft with me, hit that thumbs up, help me out. Where are we at here? There goes Bateman to the Lamar drafter. Not even. Or yeah, it was to the Lamar drafter. That makes sense, I guess. I probably wouldn't do that. If it were me, I would probably lean in on certainly 3 tight ends because he has 0 tight ends, and bring in Isaiah Likely. He probably will anyways, but to me, that's a little bit of overkill, especially with Bateman. Like Zay Flowers, sure, I can see that. And then Likely, obviously, you can definitely do that in a 3 tight end build for sure. But Bateman, it's a little overkill. Doesn't exactly make sense in this structure. And the way you're building it out, you don't have a bring back in Houston. So you don't need that kind of overkill, in my opinion. But what do I know? What do I know? This guy's catching up at wide receiver. Myers, Dotson, Pearsall, Darnell Mooney. I like that. That's a good job catching up. Green Monster. He's definitely going to have to lean in on some running backs, though. He does have a high floor, David Montgomery and Bijan Robinson, and there he goes with Antonio Gibson. So that makes some sense. Do have a falling Kirk Cousins here. By week 12, though, I don't love it. Aaron Rodgers by week 12. What am I getting from Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers that I don't get from Stroud or T-Law? To me, nothing. I don't think I have to go three quarterbacks to advance or to, win the tournament. So I'm not doing it. At least not now. If they keep falling, sure, sign me up. I'm going to bring up Braylon Allen in a second here, and I'm going to take Jaleel McLaughlin. I just like him a lot, and he's getting some steam right now. I like him as a player. I think he is the most explosive running back on that roster by far. And I like the camp news and buzz I'm hearing about Jaleel McLaughlin. I'm gonna keep taking him at what I perceive as a value right here. He's going with backups, and he's not the same as a lot of these backups. That's for sure. What am I at for wide receiver as well? So I do need to catch up a little bit. I'm gonna take. I might have to take 6 running backs, but we'll see. I'm gonna take Chuba just because I think he's gonna get some. I think he's going to get some early season work. I still believe in that. I have a ton of exposure to him, and that's just a straight advancement piece. And then I could be done at 5 easily. I could be done at 5 running backs here easily. Yeah, I think I have to do that, and then that opens the door. If there goes Cousins, that's fine. Oh, that's great value for him. But this is I don't. Would you say that this quarterback room is better than mine with CJ Stroud and T-Law, Tua and Kirk Cousins? I like my pairing a little bit better personally, but 3 quarterbacks here, nothing wrong with that. Certainly need to catch up at wide receiver now. Now I am falling. I wouldn't say I'm falling behind. I'm not going to say I'm falling behind at wide receiver, but I don't love the back end, obviously. Jaleel McLaughlin, another second round, first or second year player. So I do like to lean in on that a little bit. Nothing too crazy. And now quarterback's dead for me, basically. It might have been Kirk Cousins. Maybe that should have been the click there. But I just don't think I don't think it's necessary to advance. And it certainly doesn't really help me in the playoffs anywhere. Week 17 against Terry McLaurin, okay, sure. But I've kind of leaned in on the Baltimore-Houston game already, or even, Cleveland-Miami to an extent. And even, KC-Pittsburgh to an extent. So, especially if I bring in, say, Devontae Walker, to bring it back against Pittsburgh and Houston. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I'm definitely done at quarterback now. It just doesn't make sense unless I wanted to go Drake May, which would actually make more sense now that I have Jalen Polk. And then 2 bye week 14s, not the end of the world. I would have taken Braylon Allen, no question, even to add in a 6, just because I like Braylon Allen, but I'm kind of falling behind at wide receiver here. Jalen Tolbert, I like. It does fit a little bit and make some sense. What bye week? I'm voting bye week 6. He's 7-14. Yeah, so that should be fine. Greg Dortch is a potential click here. Somewhat of a high floor guy. The thing that I don't love with Devontae Walker is, people like him because he's a rookie, I guess. But you could say he's not ahead of Nelson Aguilar at all, right? Nelson Aguilar got a little bit of money to stay there. And Devontae Walker, I didn't love his tape personally. I thought he should have stayed in college another year and potentially transferred again with Drake May leaving North Carolina and then transfer to Penn State or something like that. Transfer out somewhere and get another year under his belt. I think next year I'll be heavily invested in Devontae Walker. I do have some exposure, obviously, but he's more or less just a kind of fill in, bring back, that type of thing. But I'm not a massive believer in him personally. So it's going to be Tolbert. That just makes too much sense for me right now. Wide receivers are flying off the board. And then it could be Elijah Moore or Tyler Boyd, I suppose, with leaning into the Trevor Lawrence week 17 with DeAndre Hopkins. And that's a high floor week to week type of guy, advancement piece. By week 5, that's okay. I'm not sure I like that. We got third-year player Tolbert. That's not the end of the world. Who's there at running back that might make me change my mind? No one. No one that'll really make me change my mind or change my tune. I think that Elijah Moore is actually a pretty quality click. Let's go down that road. And I'm going to have to fill it out with one more wide receiver here. For sure. So, yeah, I like this team. I like this build. I like what we're doing for this structure. Don't think I need another running back. I think my room is fine. Christian McCaffrey is obviously going to anchor this whole thing. I'm hoping Najee has a high floor week in, week out. I'm hoping Chuba can help me out early in the season. And then Jaleel McLaughlin, becomes kind of that guy. And Ty Chandler, I think, is going to have a standing role. But also, if there's an injury to Aaron Jones, which is entirely possible, right? Very almost likely, in my opinion. I'm not really drafting much Aaron Jones. I have a ton of Ty Chandler. So if there's that injury that is very, very, very on the table, then it's kind of wheels up for Ty Chandler. And I'm willing to lean in on that with this build. I started strong with 5 wide receivers that have put me in a good spot. And then I'm just filling it out with quantity, right? Filling it out with kind of as many as I can that I like, that make sense, that don't overlap by week 6. And even now I could take a by week 6 wide receiver and it's not a big deal. But we'll see where this kind of lands. Still looks like we're sitting at 5 likes. If you're watching, hit that like button. I'll do another draft. If not, we're gonna wrap it up for the night after this. We'll go through some of these teams though, so I'll give you a little more time. If you're in your Twitter, pop into your YouTube and hit that like button if you don't mind. But we'll take a look at some of these teams drafted. I do want to check in on a couple that we're watching early and see how they finished out their squad. But where do I want to go? To be honest, I kind of want to click Nelson Aguilar, not necessarily right now, and I probably won't in this tournament, but I'm going to start clicking him here and there. I think he could just be above Devontae Walker in the pecking order. He could be wide receiver 2. He could be above Bateman even. He was at times last year. So I don't understand particularly why Nelson Aguilar is not getting drafted more. So he's a guy that's on my radar right now. Not that I haven't clicked him yet at all. And I won't in this draft because of, what we're in here. It's a little too important. I could click Parker Washington. He's getting some steam in camp. Should be unique. He's standing out during OTAs. He's standing out in mini camp. But you're going to need a bit of an injury for him to really take off. I could afford it. I can afford it a little bit with what I have in my room already. Let's put him up there and see what happens here. But realistically, I'm really looking at Greg Dortch here. he correlates in the playoffs, which is a nice little added bonus. Yeah, that's probably the way I'll go. Like, again, I don't need a pass catcher with my quarterback in this tournament structure. You really don't. And I already have that with Schultz and CJ Stroud. I do have a game stack with Trevor Lawrence, obviously with Nuke Hopkins there. So I am leaning into it a little bit. It's 23 teams, 23 teams in the final. You don't have to hit the nuts. You do not have to hit the nuts. I need this team to advance. I'm going to be going with Greg Dortch if he's there. Yeah, maybe Jalen Hyatt would make some sense after Parker Washington, to be honest. And there goes Dortch. That really sucks. That's who I wanted a lot. I'm probably going to go with Jalen Hyatt because when he, plays well, when he gets there, he enters your lineup. And I can certainly make the argument that he's a starter right now with the Giants. I like the buzz that we're getting in the offseason here. I'll take a shot on Jalen Hyatt, second-year player, lean into that a little bit more. And there we go. So there's Dalmatian number 1. Let's jump back into this draft room here. So we end up CJ Stroud, 13 picks past ADP. I love that value. I had him naked when I took him. Obviously backed it up with Dalton Schultz, a little bit ahead of ADP, 9 picks ahead of ADP, which is completely fine in my books. Took Trevor Lawrence at ADP. That's fine. Like this room, again, after T-Law, what do these quarterbacks give me that I'm not getting in my room already? Where are they going to beat out both Trevor Lawrence and CJ Stroud? Is Kirk Cousins going to do that? Maybe, but I'm not, leaning into that. Is Aaron Rodgers going to do that? Maybe, but I can't make that bet realistically. It doesn't make sense to make that bet to me. So I like this. I like this room. Obviously no overlap in the bye weeks. I love the free pick essentially I got with getting a huge amount of value on CJ Stroud. All of the Houston Texans wide receiver drafters passed him up, kind of fell into my lap. So I'll take that. Christian McCaffrey at the 2. That's always nice. Fills out my running back room. Now I'm super happy with the way I built this roster that I did take Christian McCaffrey because obviously it would look completely different if I had CeeDee Lamb on this roster. So look at the tight end room. David Njoku, Dalton Schultz, little bit of a reach on Dalton Schultz, 9 picks. I'm not worried about it. Backs that up. No overlapping buys. High enough floor, 7 to 10 points with a ceiling of about 20 or so for these 2 tight ends. Happy with that. Christian McCaffrey got, 10 pick ADP drop on Najee Harris. I'll absolutely scoop up that extra value there on a high floor running back, right? That's going to enter my lineup most weeks. Ty Chandler, I think he's a guy. I think he might be, a little bit better than what Devin Singletary was last year. I was one of the highest exposed drafters of Devin Singletary, very much believed in him over Dameon Pierce last year. And I think Ty Chandler could be that similar player, but have a higher ceiling and get to 1,000 rushing yards, that sort of thing, catch more balls, everything like that. So Ty Chandler might just be that guy, and I'm drafting him like he is. So hopefully I'm right on that. I was right on Devin Singletary last year. So fingers crossed Ty Chandler's that guy, in 2024, 25. Jaleel McLaughlin is just getting steamed up. He's the first one in the building. I like him. I like what he's doing. All he's got to do, if he was 2 inches taller and 10 pounds heavier, he would be a first round selection probably. You know what I mean? Like 15 pounds heavier maybe, but either way, he's a jitterbug. He's out there. He's the most explosive by far running back in this room. I'm leaning into him a fair amount this draft season, so I'm going to keep doing it. I like Jaleel McLaughlin, and then Chuba Hubbard should enter my lineup early in the season. At times, I think he's going to get some run. And I think he's still got just tons of value with where he's going, even in this structure. Jalen Waddle, Cooper Kupp, Terry McLaurin, Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Hopkins leaned into that because I felt a little fragile early. With taking Christian McCaffrey first, you're already a little bit behind the 8 ball at the wide receiver position. So I can kind of kill it with volume, which is what I did, going 4 straight wide receivers, then a huge value at CJ Stroud and bringing my 5th wide receiver, right? So that gave me a solid foundation in my wide receiver room that I can kind of lean on. And it worked out that I ended up being able to take 9, which is great because I have what you could say is a little bit of fragility at the top. But I have volume in that fragility, if that makes sense. That's the kind of the way I'm seeing it. And then some just kind of high upside guys, a little bit of a quantity to fill out my wide receiver room. Jalen Polk, Jalen Tolbert, Elijah Moore, and Jalen Hyatt. A lot of Jalen's there, hey? I didn't even notice that. In Jalen, we trust this year for this team. So I like it. I like this build. I like what we did. I'm happy with that. Let's look at the 1 seed that went Tyreek Hill, or the 1 seed. I always say that. The 1 pick, first overall, that went Tyreek Hill. I didn't really like that personally. That's a hot take to take Tyreek Hill first overall in this structure and in this tournament, but high advance piece, I suppose. Tua, Kirk Cousins at a massive discount, and then Bryce Young. Does Bryce Young ever enter this lineup? As much as what I was saying about my own wide receiver or my own quarterback room, does Bryce Young ever enter this lineup? For me, I don't think so. He's not necessarily at all really an advanced piece, and we'll see if he has some pass catchers. But to me, I don't love that in this structure. Devon Achane, DeAndre Swift, Tajay Spears, Tyler Algier, Bucky Irving. I like this room. That's a very, very quality running back room. Pretty much got everybody at a discount too. It's a little bit of a reach on Tyler Algier, but he was clearly maybe thinking Kirk Cousins makes it to me, and that's kind of what happened. Maybe that's part of it, but I like this running back room. That's quality. Tyreek Hill, Devontae Smith, Amari Cooper, Ladd McConkey. There's your Bryce Young quarterback there, Rondale Moore. So it's not necessary to me to bring in Rondale Moore, like Deontay Johnson. Yes, I get it. But to bring in Rondale Moore just because you drafted Kirk Cousins, that's what I was saying about Parker Washington. That's why I didn't draft him. Is he going to enter my lineup? Is he going to do anything for my roster? Like Rondale Moore might not even make this team. Probably will because they're super light in the wide receiver room in Atlanta, but there's a not zero chance that he gets cut from this roster. So do you really need to bring him in when you're only drafting 7 wide receivers? And to me, it's a little on the kind of, sketchy side with, possible, aging wide receiver, Tyler Lockett. You got Damari Cooper's holding out for a contract, definitely aging as well. Ladd McConkey, who's going to play in a run-first offense at the Chargers. So to me, Rondale Moore, this guy kind of fell behind the 8 ball a little bit at wide receiver. Dalton Kincaid, Luke Musgrave, and Juwan Johnson. Juwan Johnson's just everybody's favorite tight end to take a little bit later, and he reached heavily. Oh, no, he didn't. Sorry, he got a huge discount on Juwan Johnson. Jeez, what am I talking about? Massive discount. I guess that's okay. Like, that's fine. You went elite tight ends, so yeah, you bring it back with 2 late-round picks. I probably would have taken a wide receiver here instead of Musgrave and then brought it back with another, bottom tier, whatever you want to call it. Even Chig Okonkwo's there, didn't get drafted. Something like that, or where you picked Rondale Moore, bring in your tight end, something like that. Who could he have gone with? Jalen Polk, Quentin Johnston, Xavier Legette would have made sense with his possibly going after Bryce Young. Lean in on that offense a little bit more. If you're going to draft Bryce Young, then mean it. You know what I mean? Like, really mean it. If you think he's going to take a huge step forward, then buy in. Write the story. You know what I'm saying? That's my 2 cents on that. That's what I would have done. That's what I would have done. I would have went Xavier Legette right here. Makes you run your wide receiver room a little bit better. And then if you're planning on taking Bryce Young regardless, then buy into it, man. Go all in. Don't just half-ass it. Again, maybe that'd make more sense in a Best Ball Mania or some of the other structures, but you did draft Bryce Young, so I don't know. That's my 2 cents. Maybe it makes sense, maybe it doesn't, but yeah, there you go. What else do we got here? Anything interesting? RBRB, let's take a look at that. Breeze, JP Schindel, I think I've drafted with him. Justin Herbert and Bo Nix. Wow, fragile. That is scary. That is a little nerve-wracking for me. And that's week 17. So we'll see. I think that's gonna stop you from advancing. I don't think you can get there with those two quarterbacks, honestly. And quarterback is a quite important position in this structure, 4 of 12 advance. I think that's a little too fragile personally. Breece Hall, Barkley, and you didn't even do such a great job after that. This team, I'm going to say, is kind of DOA, man. Like, you did a great, I mean, you're ahead of the 8 ball for sure, but you got fragile Javonte Williams, who it's been quoted by a beat writer. This is not my quote, but a beat writer saying maybe Javonte doesn't even make this team. I think he does. I think that's going a little bit far, but again, he with the injury history and what he's been showing as a professional, I liked him as much as anybody, probably more than a lot of people when he was a rookie coming out. But after the injury and just the usage that we've seen, I can't really get behind Javonte Williams personally. And then J.K. Dobbins, to me, I'm never drafting J.K. Dobbins. I'm just not. You can't have those kinds of knee injuries and get to the little bit of advanced age that he's at. I think he's only like 26, so he's not old or anything like that. But with those injuries that he's had, man, like you can't rely on the guy. And it's certainly possible he doesn't make the Chargers either. That's much more likely than Javonte Williams doesn't. That I'll say that, and that is my take. But you kind of left a little. I feel like you left some meat on the bone, especially your bye weeks overlap. I can't get behind this team so far. George Kittle, Tyler Conklin, that's fine. Semi-elite. Fringe elite, whatever you want to call it. George Kittle, spike week type of a tight end, and then Tyler Conklin hopefully gives you a good floor. I'm all right with that tight end room. DK, Tank Dell, Jaden Reed, Christian Watson. He must have gotten sniped on Jordan Love, I'd have to imagine. Cortland Sutton, Joshua Palmer, Mims as well with his Bo Nix, Devontae Walker, Josh Downs. Any crazy value? Nothing really. I think this team is not going to be advancing out of this pod. Not saying, hey, I'm advancing for sure, but I do like my team over this one. So, that's a tough JP Schindel. My apologies if you're watching, but I'm not sure that team's going to advance. What else do we got here? Where was E Green Monster? I'm gonna check that because he I was worried about his draft, and then he pulled it together. I felt like he caught up at wide receiver. So Joe Burrow and Caleb Williams, bit of a discount on Burrow. He obviously paired him with T. Higgins. We saw that earlier. I like that room. Nothing wrong with that. Bijan, David Montgomery, Antonio Gibson. He got Vidal at a big discount, and then Audric Estime. Yeah. I mean, to me, and obviously I drafted him, and that's my take. If I'm taking any Denver Bronco running back, the only one I'm taking is the one I drafted tonight, and that's Jaleel McLaughlin. That is the only Denver Broncos running back that I'm personally drafting. I'll say that. Not that my take's right or wrong or in between or indifferent, but I'm not taking those other running backs personally. So that's not really a knocking against Estime here, but I don't mind this room. I like the top 4 that you drafted. Bijan, David Montgomery's a high floor. Antonio Gibson could provide some PPR value for sure. Kamani Vidal could provide you some PPR value, or and maybe he just ends up being the best running back on that team. We'll see, but don't mind that room. Chris Olave, DJ Moore, T. Higgins. And then he brought it back, missed a few picks. Jacoby Myers, Jahan Dotson, Ricky Pearsall, Darnell Mooney, Zay Jones, Jalen McMillan. That's the only Jalen I didn't get, but I don't mind this room. There's nothing wrong with that. He obviously paired up DJ Moore and T. Higgins with Caleb and Burrow. Nothing wrong with that. Kyle Pitts and Mark Andrews. That's where he kind of fell behind at wide receiver with that bully kind of tight end, 2 quarterbacks back-to-back sort of thing. So it's tough to catch up at wide receiver, but I think he did an okay job of doing that. So yeah, not a bad squad there. But what do we have for likes? Hit that like button if you're hanging out. If we get to 10 here, I'll do a Best Ball Mania right now. If you're in the chat, you're watching, you want to draft with me, hit that like button, and we'll rip another draft if we're getting to 10. If we don't, then I'm going to have to wrap it up, guys. I got to be a man of my word. I'm at 6 likes. 4 more. There's 13 people watching right now. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks for coming out. But it doesn't look like we're getting to that like total, guys. But that's all right. We'll be back probably on the weekend. Most likely. We got the US Open. It's Father's Day. I'm golfing again on Sunday if the weather's nice enough. Might not get there, but I definitely will probably try to rip a round of golf this weekend. But hit that like button on your way out if you don't mind. Hit like and subscribe, all that stuff. Notification bell's a good one. We go live kind of a little bit sporadically, but we'll be back shortly, probably over the weekend, if not next week, maybe Monday, something like that. But again, hit that like button on your way out. Like I always say on Off the Schneid, if you're afraid to be wrong, you'll never be right. Hopefully tonight we were right and we smashed this Dalmatian and we're winning 30 G's, whatever it is. Thanks for coming out, guys. We'll see you next time. Have a great night.